Well, hello. Good evening to you all. It's been such a long time since I did one of these live tours. I really hope you're all well. I hope you had a wonderful Christmas, a glorious New Year. And if you weren't celebrating or times were tough or are tough, I hope you had a nice peaceful time. I've missed you lots. It's been lovely to have a little break for myself, but obviously a few things in my life have changed, all of them for the better. But financially, it would be nice to get back to do some more regular tours. I've been doing quite a few of the premieres and pre-recorded videos, just simply to have the time to prepare and to signal test and to get into town at the right times, to the right places. It's been a bit tricky, but I'm back here and I'm in central London and I want to show us some Christmas lights for the last chance, because they'll be coming down 12th night, the 12 days of Christmas, and I hope that you would like this. It's going to be quite a long walk. I'll do as much as I can. What I wanted to do is actually just film the lights and prepare it to show with a narration at another time, but I thought, you know what, I'll do some form of commentary on the way, and we'll see how we get on. So we're in the West End, on the Strand in particular, coming up to Trafalgar Square. Been a wet few days in London, some floods all over the country. These lights will be coming down tonight or tomorrow, but we're lucky that we get the last chance to see the tree in Trafalgar Square, hopefully the Christmas tree in Covent Garden, hopefully Bond Street. The plan for the next hour or so is to film Trafalgar Square, up towards Piccadilly, some Regent Street lights, Carnaby Street, try and get a little bit into Leicester Square, maybe some Chinatown, and eventually end up in Covent Garden. So this will be a long walk, so settle back, and if you can't watch it all now, then log off. I will leave this on for a little bit as well, and I might leave it on for a few days and then take it off again and do a proper narration with some history on the way. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Gerardo, and I've managed to get quite a few subscribers on my YouTube channel, which I have changed the name of recently to Curious Tales and Tours. It was previously Intermission Tours, and I started virtual guiding about a couple of years ago, and I've enjoyed it immensely. And then the company that we all worked for, or a lot of my friends and me worked for, Hey Go, closed down, and we had to find other ways to try and bring these skills to the public and to our, what we call them, voyagers, our friends, who we share these moments with, live hopefully. And a few of us have started a little collective called Together Virtually, so do look out for that. Started by a great guide, John Wright, and a few others, so there are about 15 or so of us that we started this website, this booking calendar. But as I said, things have been a bit busy for me, so I haven't managed to be able to do many live tours in the last 2 or 3 months. Some big life changes. By the way, I will point out at this moment, at this juncture, that although this is live and I'm commenting live, I'm using a new way of filming, and the screen that I'm filming with on this high definition camera, it can pick up sound very, very well, but normally you can hear the chat, or read the chat at least. You're able to read questions that people ask on the way, but the screen is simply too small. I'm not using my glasses to look at the screen because I wanted to see what was going on. Oh, some guy just there. Every now and then people jump in front of the screen and shove things in front, so it's just happened a couple of times there where, I don't know if you picked it up, somebody shoved something, I think it was a can of beer or a coffee or something, in front of the screen. These things can happen on a live tour. We're in Trafalgar Square anyway, and this is the tree that is given by the Norwegian government to us every single year. And people always complain about these things. They always say, oh, they're not nice enough, or they look a bit threadbare. But the Norwegian government always say, well, it was fine when it left us, so it must have happened in transit. The market on the right-hand side is closing. They're taking all of that down. This is the fourth plinth. The fourth plinth, P-L-I-N-T-H. It always changes. Every few months it changes. In the last couple of years there have been a few different ones, but this is Antelope by Samson Kambalu, and it's to do with Malawi and a missionary, John Chilemwe, who refused to take his hat off in front of a British missionary, John Chorley. So that is going to be there for a little while. Samson Kambalu is the sculptor, and this is the Canadian High Commission. So hi to any Canadian friends. We don't call them embassies. If they're part of the Commonwealth, if the country is part of our Commonwealth, we call them High Commissions. You can see the signs for Trafalgar Square and Pall Mall East. On the left is the Canadian High Commission. The building just to the right of the centre of the screen, the high office block, is the New Zealand High Commission. The building's not actually as nice, but the people are just as nice. And hi to anyone from New Zealand, any Kiwis on this live tour. As I said, you are very welcome to log off if you have things to do, and join this at another time. But I just wanted to film this. Wanted to film it for posterity. This is the first time I've been out to see anything Christmas related, to be able to do this, to be able to have a nice, chilled, relaxed walk, because it's been a busy time. I've been in town a lot, but a lot of it has been for personal and work reasons, so I haven't had time to do a leisurely stroll. So as I said, what we're going to try and do is get up to Piccadilly. We're going to try and get along Regent Street towards Hamleys, walk back along Carnaby Street to see the great, possibly the best lights in London, the Carnaby lights, and then walk through Leicester Square, St Martin's Lane maybe, and eventually end up in Covent Garden, the largest and the nicest tree and some of the quaintest lights. And Covent Garden is probably my favourite area in London as well. The two theatres here on Haymarket. The one on the left is now known as His Majesty's Theatres. It was, of course, known as Her Majesty's, and when Queen Elizabeth II passed away and Charles became king, Her Majesty's changed to His Majesty's. That's showing Phantom of the Opera, and the Corinthian columns on the right are for the Theatre Royal Haymarket. That's showing, at the moment, the picture of Dorian Gray with the great Australian actress Sarah Snook, S-N-O-O-K, who was in the great TV show recently, the award-winning Succession. This is Charles II Street. Now, I wasn't going to go up Haymarket, but I think I'm going to walk along here because I can see some lights in the distance. We don't often walk up this way, so I thought I might try and cross the road and take a few little side turns here and there. As I said, for anyone that is watching, I can't really see much of the screen. I can see in the distance, I can see what I'm filming on the screen, but I'm not wearing my glasses. There are quite a lot of people out in town, and I haven't been out here for a while streaming, so it's a little bit tricky to try and do both at the same time. As I said, Theatre Royal Haymarket, built in 1821. I've been an actor just over 25 years, and I performed there in a play called Fatal Attraction. Very small couple of parts, understudied a couple of big parts. Fatal Attraction, of course, the movie with Michael Douglas and Glenn Close, written by James Dearden, a classic horror, really, psychological horror, is where we get the phrase bunny boiler, because at one point Glenn Close, who doesn't take no for an answer really after she's had a one night rendezvous with Michael Douglas's character, he decides to go back to his life. At one moment she breaks into their house in the middle of the night, and the bunny that their daughter has been given, she basically boils it. She puts it in a pot, and the mother wakes up, Michael Douglas's wife, and she smells and hears the boiling, bubbling sound. Anyway, sorry, we're talking about Christmas, and these are Christmas lights, and I suddenly took a very dark turn. Anyway, in the play, there were bunnies. 2 live bunnies were used every night. They weren't boiled, they were kept, but every couple of months they had to change the bunnies because they got too big, and they needed to be 4-week-old bunnies, tiny little things. So the actresses, who were only about 10, 11 years old, that had to hold them, could hold them, and that the rabbits, as they would then become, wouldn't run off. Insurance for animals, my goodness, that's more than what most actors get for a weekly wage. A lot of these theatres, before animals had rights, would use animals. Drury Lane, where we're going to end up near Drury Lane in Covent Garden, had donkeys, goats, camels, monkeys. That was all in one show, The Garden of Allah, 1920. And tons of sand. I remember reading about The Garden of Allah. That show got quite bad reviews because they put wind machines on the stage, and at the beginning of the first act they created a sandstorm, and all the sand went into the front 2 or 3 rows of Drury Lane stalls, orchestra seats, and that's where the theatre staff and the producers had put all of the critics. So they gave it quite bad reviews because of that. So it didn't last that long. So it's about 20-ish, 22, quarter to 8. Lovely evening walking up towards Piccadilly. As I mentioned, I've been an actor for 25 years. Some of these theatres that we pass on the way, I have worked in. Not just as an actor, I've not always acted. Sometimes you need to make a living however you can, so I've ripped tickets, sold ice creams, worked in the box office, worked in the bar, worked backstage. And about 20 years ago, I discovered that tour guiding, trying to use those skills, those performance skills that guides have, was a great way of working, and it felt a bit more flexible. For the last couple of years I've tried my best to be professional and do these virtual tours, but I'm nowhere near the skills of some of my colleagues. But what I do is I do a lot of theatre tours and a lot of ghost stories and readings from home. So if you are watching this and you haven't subscribed to my channel, just click on that, leave a little comment or a like, or share it amongst friends, share it on social media that there's a Christmas lights tour, a nice relaxed walk we're trying to have here for some of you that may not get to London. But one thing that I definitely have over a lot of guides worldwide is I have access to London, a big city. It takes me about an hour to get in, so it's a bit of a trek. But once we're here, you feel like you're lucky. You might hear the odd beep. Actually, my phone needs plugging in, so I'm just going to plug it. I have a little hard case which needs turning on, and it can power the battery of the phone. So I'm trying to film this in as high definition as I can. And it means the battery runs out quite quickly. Waterstone's the biggest bookshop in the country, there in front of us. Not the oldest. The oldest is Hatchard's, which is coincidentally owned by the Waterstones company. And we're now on the road Piccadilly. So Piccadilly is an area. Piccadilly Circus is a tube station, and the central circus that we just passed. But Piccadilly itself is a street named because of a tailor named Robert Baker. Robert Baker in the early 1600s made something that we call today ruffs, R-U-F-F-S, but in those days they called them piccadilles. They were starched collars, pleated, which went around the necks, and he also made piccadilles for the wrists. So a lot of those Tudor portraits, you see people like that wearing this fashion, which actually came from the Netherlands, and Robert Baker made it fashionable here in London, but he was ridiculed for a while, and then eventually the area was named after him, Piccadilly. And you don't really see people wearing them now unless it's fancy dress or they're in a play or a film. The only time you get to see it if you see a royal event, or if you go to evensong or a church service where there's a children's choir. You often get choir boys and choir girls that do wear piccadilles, starched collars and starched wrists, cuffs. The red building we see in front of us is actually Fortnum and Mason, just to the right of the centre. We'll go up and see as much as we can, but the traffic's a bit dodgy here So I want to make sure that I'm safe as well. Because we're in such a busy area, I'm not looking at the chat, so do apologise for that. I will look back over it, and I know that there hopefully will be some people that I know very well watching this tour live. And if you're not watching it live and you're watching it after the 5th of January, then this will be the last chance to see these lights, because they will be coming down this weekend, 6th and the 7th. Fortnum and Mason there. Two men, Fortnum and Mason. They started a very small shop, and then this became their major shop. And it's an advent calendar, believe it or not. So it's got numbers on it, which I find very, very cool. Isn't that lovely? A lot of lights. Not too far from Veera Swami, which opened in 1926, the first Indian restaurant in London. Isn't this lovely? Okay, we're going to approach Bond Street. I think that's where we need to get to. Got the Royal Academy on the right hand side. We're going along Piccadilly. If we continued on in that direction, we'd end up at Hyde Park Corner. Just to give you bearings, if you need them. You might know exactly where we are at the moment. And you are all extremely welcome on this tour. We're going to eventually end up in Covent Garden at the end of this one. And of course, for the last few weeks, anyone that has been celebrating it has been celebrating Christmas. And some of you may know, if you don't, I'll tell you now. I do quite a few tours regarding William Shakespeare on the South Bank. I walk on the South Bank, where the theatres, most of them used to be in Shakespeare's time, the late early 1600s. This area was full of parks: Regent's Park, Hyde Park, Green Park, St James's Park. It was Henry VIII's hunting ground. And over the years, it then became the centre of retail. And this is Burlington Arcade, the longest shopping arcade in Europe. It closes of an evening. So you have the shops on the ground floor, areas to live and storage on the top floor. You've got the Ritz a little bit further down as well. So we're in a very famous and a very expensive, affluent, a very exclusive part of London. And you can see some works being done. So there are people that are gradually removing the Christmas decorations, because by this weekend they will all be gone. Here we are down New Bond Street, some of the great Christmas decorations. It wasn't always lights, not electric lights. William Shakespeare's day, holly and ivy, laurel, other greenery was brought indoors. Spruce trees to spruce up your house. So the idea of taking greenery indoors was something that did happen. Shakespeare wouldn't have been in this area too much in the winter. He would have gone home to Stratford-upon-Avon, which is about 103 miles, about 166 kilometres. But his plays would have been performed at court a lot during the Christmas celebrations. Two of the most famous occasions. The Merry Wives of Windsor was performed over the Christmas holidays. And he also wrote a play and called it Twelfth Night. And this is indeed Twelfth Night, the night of the 5th of January, the final night, traditionally, of the Christmas celebrations. If you know the play Twelfth Night, you will know it has nothing to do with Twelfth Night. He was requested by Queen Elizabeth I to write a play for Twelfth Night, and it's possible he already had one ready and just changed the title, because Twelfth Night can be put on any time of year. It doesn't mention Christmas. It's like Christmas pantomime. Christmas pantomime in the theatres, not so much in central London, in the regional areas, the regional theatres, the outskirts, all over the rest of the UK. Christmas pantomime, fairy tales are very popular. But just like the play Twelfth Night, Christmas panto rarely mentions Christmas, except on a bit of add-on dialogue. A couple of things to see here. This is Horse and Rider by Elizabeth Frink. That's the sculpture on the right. And look at these lights. My goodness. This is a lot of electricity being used. And these will all be down. Within the next couple of days, these will all be coming down. They might even be coming down tonight, some of them. This is Cartier, the flagship store. As we're coming up to around 8 o'clock, we might see they do something special, I've been told, at around on the hour. And there are people gathering, so maybe they know what it's about. So we'll see. We'll walk on, and if I can hear or see anything, I'll turn back. Absolutely wonderful. That is lovely. I'm so glad we got there at that time. Okay, let me get my skates on. I think actually in the distance I can see a couple of cranes and cherry pickers that are actually taking lights off. Obviously we see tarpaulin, so they are doing some restoration work to that building in front, but I can see a crane in the distance taking down the lights, that crown that we see. So we're very lucky that we're here tonight. And I rushed in just to make sure. Anyone on these tours, if you are interested in making a contribution, a payment to support me, if you go back on to my page, it will give you two links. One is a PayPal link and one is a Buy Me a Coffee link, and they both have the company Intermission Tours. So that was the main tour company that I set up a few years back. But I've recently rebranded the channel to call it Curious Tours and Tales, to make it seem something a little bit more quirky and interesting. Had a new logo done. But you are very welcome to make some form of contribution, to a payment or a tip, call it what you will, but it will definitely support any future work. It will also, my friends, keep me in diaper money, nappy money, because as some of you may know, some of you might not, just under a month ago I became a father for the first time. And this is the reason that I haven't been out too much. It's been a big change for myself and my partner Catherine. It's all gone very different and I'm very excited about it, and our daughter is a joy to behold. But it just meant that I had to be home a lot more, of course. And I want to be home a lot more. To be with her in these first few months especially. But it means that I haven't been able to work as much. So financially it's been a real change. It's been quite a quiet Christmas and New Year because of all of that. That may all change in future years, of course, but we're still getting used to it. But I thought I'd come in and thank you so much for your congratulations and your comments and your kindness. I thought I'd come in on this final night of the Christmas celebrations just so we could see these lights one last time. And I know quite a few of the guides in London have done these tours, Christmas lights tours, but I thought I'd take this mammoth walk. Well over an hour we're going to be doing this. We're just over half an hour in. Coming to the back of the Burlington Arcade, at the end of this street, Cork Street, and the Royal Academy as well. We're going to take a left and go towards Regent Street, down Regent Street, named after the Prince Regent, the son of George III. He later became the Prince Regent George IV. And we're going to go along Carnaby Street, the swinging 60s, the home of all things cool, the Who, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles. Carnaby's different now, but it was an extremely fashionable area, and what makes it a go-to, a must-see place in this day and age is that at Christmas their light show, their Christmas lights, are normally phenomenal. Now, I have not seen them yet myself. I'm taking this walk with you, and I'm going to be seeing them live for the first time. I believe this year it's known as Carnaby Universe. Don't know what any of you ate at Christmas. We did have turkey in England in Shakespeare's time, but the most popular bird was the goose. They talk about a goose a lot, people cooking geese in Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, and if you're interested, I do a reading of A Christmas Carol, a full unabridged reading, which you are welcome to click on and listen to on my channel. Roast beef, though, was the favourite meal at the time. Food was, at Christmas, and has been and is, an enormous deal. During the Advent period, the 1st of December to the 24th of December, they fasted. Nowadays, of course, worldwide, if we are celebrating Christmas, we celebrate all the way up to it. We celebrate for months in advance and prepare for it. And once Christmas Day is over, and it becomes the 26th or 27th, people say, "Did you have a good Christmas?" It's over to people. But in olden days, Christmas Day was the beginning, the start of the Christmas celebrations. For 12 days and 12 nights. That's when people started to gorge themselves. So food was this big deal, and as I said, they fasted for that first month, and then from the 25th they gorged themselves. Now, it almost seems the opposite. For September, October, November, December, people eat and eat and eat. They gorge themselves, and then they make a New Year's resolution to diet. So it's almost like they flipped it. So it was a time for feasting. But the main difference was timings, what was celebrated and when it was celebrated. It was actually unlucky to even put up your Christmas decorations until Christmas Eve. And then it was actually unlucky as well to take them down before 12th night, the night of the 5th of January. As this walk is happening, that is tonight. It's just with marketing and advertising, we seem to celebrate Christmas earlier. By the way, we're on Regent Street. If anyone's a Bowie fan, this is quite a famous little area for fans of David Bowie. There's a pub called the Starman. There's one here called Ziggy. To Ziggy Stardust. David Bowie's album, Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. The actual front cover, and you can Google this or search on the internet afterwards. The photo shoot was just done over here. Look at this ramen downtown. Look at this brilliant little noodle installation. I do like that. So yeah, it's just up here on the left. There is a sign saying this was where the photo shoot was done. So Ziggy Stardust had his photo taken just here. I'll try and get the right angle. And do look on the internet, because it is more or less exactly the same, the Burlington building. And the photograph of the album cover is slightly colorized, so it will look slightly different. It's just there, the photo shoot, the front album cover of Ziggy Stardust, Spiders from Mars. talking about celebrating Christmas, and seemingly we celebrate these things a bit earlier every year. The other day I was in a shop and it was the 27th of December and there were already chocolate Easter eggs for sale 2 days after Christmas Day. Actors, my profession, is slightly different. When you think about Christmas, a lot of my actor friends do or try and get work in Christmas pantomime if they're singers and dancers, musical theatre people, and they start thinking about those jobs in February, March, and a lot of them are auditioning in April, and by May their Christmas work, their Christmas pantomime, if they've got the job, it's already secured. They know what they're doing for Christmas. Traditionally, as we said, Christmas was from the 25th to the 5th of January, but to say that nobody prepared before then, it would have been wrong. They had the Advent, the preparation, the arrival, the coming, in the Christian world, of the baby Jesus, the three wise men, the Magi or Magi, the three kings, probably from Africa, Persia and India, and their journey. So the celebrations would have been different in Tudor times, and then they changed again in Georgian times. Our royal family then was coming from Germany, so the idea of German style snacks, German style decorations, then the Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, things changed again. Clement Clarke Moore wrote The Night Before Christmas, things changed again. But the one thing that hasn't changed throughout all of it is light. The idea that in the winter, on the 21st of December, in this country, there are 8 hours plus 8 hours less light than there are on the 21st of June. The summer solstice and the winter solstice, 8 hours. This is Hamley's toy store. Now they do some business at Christmas. Hamley's, my goodness. They make an absolute fortune. So that's the biggest toy store in the country. There are quite a few great stores around here. There's a great Liberty, Arthur Lazenby Liberty, in 1875, a lovely store near the London Palladium. But Hamley's for toys. Well, that is from 1881. 7 floors, 50,000 lines of toys, all started by one man, William Hamley, who had a small store called Noah's Ark and then built that toy store. Well, this is where most people come for their Christmas shopping, and they always take a look along Carnaby Street. As I said, Carnaby Street is synonymous with 60s mod culture. John Stephen was the king of Carnaby Street. He said he was the Michelangelo of fashion. In 1973, we haven't reached Carnaby Street yet. We're walking up towards it, and then it runs from left to right. And, of course, from right to left. In 1973, it was mainly pedestrianised, which ended up doubling the shopping in that time. Just beyond it, there was a terrible cholera outbreak in the 1850s, and it all came from the water pumps. But nobody realised it. They thought everything was airborne. They thought all the diseases and afflictions were in the air. So a bad smell was often counteracted by doing something like chewing on a spice or raw garlic to counteract the smell. And a man named John Snow, an epidemiologist, he isolated a cholera outbreak to just one water pump, which ran alongside an open sewer. So the water was getting contaminated, and he turned that off, that water pump, and he saved possibly hundreds of thousands of cases of cholera. That's Liberty, or the back of Liberty in front of us. Just want to walk up here. John Lennon sat on a bench there. I can't stop there, but I just wanted to turn us round so that we could see the Carnaby lights, the Carnaby universe. This is the first time I've seen it as well, in its full glory. I really hope that you can see this and it looks as good for you as it does for me. I think it looks stunning. Expensive, I'd say. I don't want to say too much, I just want us to look at it. Because I'm a bit blown away. Every year I'm blown away by the lights on Carnaby Street. But this year, this is the first time and probably the last night they'll be up that I got to see them. So I've rushed in. Come away from a lovely 3.5-week-old daughter to film this. I miss her, so I want to get home at some point this evening. And then there's some lights for her to watch at some point in the future. There are over 40 theatres in the West End, and the closest one to us now is the London Palladium. So that's behind us. We're walking towards Soho. Behind us, you've got the Palladium and Oxford Street. So we're walking away from Oxford Street. Oxford Street is simply too busy to live stream. It's just too noisy. The sidewalks, the pavements, as we call them in London, are too narrow. And there are quite a few little bits of crime in the area around Oxford Street. So it's quite cool and relaxed here, but once you go into Oxford Street, I think the proximity to people creates a lot of stress, and also, to be honest, the amount of people using phones in such a small area means that signal-wise it's very difficult to live stream, and you're constantly in people's way or they're in your way. I'm pleased to say that actually this night it's relatively quiet. You can see on the ground it's still wet. Yesterday and the day before it was torrential rain. There are a lot of floods in the UK at the moment. A lot of rain already saturated the ground. So a lot of people haven't been able to get out of their houses in the last few days. So I'm lucky enough to be able to do this. This is the Rolling Stones store. Got the Rolling Stones lips. And it used to be really synonymous with cool. Now there's a lot of high-end brands, but a lot of chains are along Carnaby Street. It is well worth seeing, it's well worth visiting if you are in London. It's a cool little place. And the architecture really of the buildings hasn't changed since the 60s. It's just the shop fronts have. I hope you're getting a good sense of what London is like post New Year. People are still out and about, walking slightly more slowly, more leisurely, because they've done their shopping, the presents have been given. Some people like to come just after Christmas, just after New Year, when the sales begin. And there are some good sales around. The biggest sellers just after Christmas of any items are Christmas decorations. So a lot of people buy their Christmas decorations in the week after Christmas for the next year. You're getting some great bargains then. A lot of people spend money that they've been given at Christmas just after Christmas. So the shopping period for the 12 days of Christmas is almost as much as it is in the few months leading up to Christmas itself. So a lot of money is spent that maybe doesn't need to be spent. I always work along the lines of, and I'm not very good at this, but I try to do this. I always say it's not a bargain if you don't need it. So if it's half price and you buy it, you may not have wanted it, you're just buying it because it's half price. But that's just me. I break that little rule all the time. So we're going to try and make our way through Chinatown and then eventually end up in Covent Garden. Hopefully the signal is still working nicely. Going down some quiet roads now. The battery is running out rapidly. I'm trying to charge it. It seems to be running out more quickly than it's charging. I don't know why that is. And for those of you that have joined a little bit later, I'm Jared from Curious Tales and Tours. Do subscribe to my channel. I do plan on doing a lot more live work in future. But it's been difficult. The last few weeks, it's been a very, very busy time. I'll try in the next few days, certainly the next 5 or 6 days, to do a walk around the Globe, one of my favourite areas to walk around Shakespeare's Globe and the South Bank. This is Theatreland, the West End, where there are over 40 theatres, but theatre in this country started a little bit further east, and it didn't even start on the South Bank. The first purpose-built playhouse was built in 1576. And it was built in an area named Shoreditch. And it was called The Theatre. 1577, another theatre, the Curtain, opened. Shakespeare was a young lad, he was only 12, 13 at this point. Then there was an outbreak of the plague. And just like we've had in the last few years, they had lockdowns. So they would close a theatre and close any public establishment if there was an outbreak of more than 30 deaths from the plague in a week. And every Thursday they would announce the death figures. Now, the reason I'm talking about something that seems quite morbid and sad is when Shakespeare was about 13 years old, living in Stratford-upon-Avon, not living in this area, not having visited here, this would take him 5 to 6 days walking to get here. But when he was 13, there was an outbreak of the plague. and an acting company travelled the country. Now, they didn't keep a diary, an itinerary of where they visited, but Stratford-upon-Avon, although it was a small town for residents, it was a very thriving market town. And we believe an acting company performed in Stratford Market Square for a few days. So in a way, we only have William Shakespeare and his work, and London being synonymous with theatre and live theatrical performance. We only have all of this because of the plague. So that pandemic, a great thing came out of it. All of this, you could say, happened because of that terrible, terrible disease. That's Old Compton Street in front of us. You've got the Prince Edward along that road. You've got the Lyceum Theatre not too far from there. You've got the Phoenix Theatre. You've got the Dominion Theatre. Palace. On the right of us is the newly renamed Sondheim Theatre. The Sondheim was named the Queen's, and Les Miserables is on there at the moment. One of the big shows in town. We are approaching Gerrard Street and Chinatown, just trying to avoid traffic as much as I can. You see how narrow these sidewalks are. The roads are narrow, the sidewalks are narrow. There's a lot of deliveries being made, and I'm trying to stream and also not get in people's way, and also not film the backs of people's heads. The road which is running left to right is Shaftesbury Avenue. We're coming along Wardour Street, the beginning of Chinatown. The original Chinatown was in Limehouse, further to the east end of London, quite heavily damaged and bombed in World War II. Some people still remained and stayed there, but the rest of the Chinese community decided to band together and buy some quite inexpensive, some cheap land on Gerrard Street in the middle of Soho. Soho being a word that was a hunting cry, I believe, by Henry VIII and some of his court. They would cry Soho if they saw a small animal. So this, for the Chinese community, was some of the most affordable land in London. It's strange to think that now this is some of the most expensive land anywhere in the world. A lot of these restaurants are open until about 3 in the morning, so they have licenses to do that. Let's try and get around some of these people so we can see the lanterns in the distance. Not just Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Malaysian, Thai, Vietnamese. So there is a mixture. And of course, very, very busy. I hope you are enjoying this tour. I hope you've joined it halfway and we've never met before. I'm Gerard, giving us a live walk, my first of the year, my first in quite a while. There was a period for a while I was doing about 10 in a week. And this is my first one in a few weeks just because of life has got in the way. Good things in life, though, but I'm pleased to say that I'm back on the streets, back giving live tours. Some of them will go into a lot more detail. This is a long form walk, so we're coming up to an hour, and I'm going to try and get us to Covent Garden if the battery stays with us. but the future walks will be about 30 minutes, any of the live ones. And if you subscribe to my channel and you leave a little comment, it will give you a little notification if I'm next doing a live tour or if I upload any short tours. Gerrard Street, Gerrard Place. So Chinatown have named their main thoroughfare after me, which I find very nice. The oldest theatre now in the West End is the Theatre Royal Drury Lane, which is in Covent Garden. That opened in 1663. But if we go back briefly to the story of William Shakespeare, which didn't happen in this area, it happened on the South Bank. The theatres were built on the North Bank in Shoreditch. And in 1598, the owners of the theatre decided that the rent was a bit too high. The Burbage family were the main proprietors, and they took the theatre over the only bridge. We now call it London Bridge, they just called it the bridge. And they decided that the rent was cheaper on the South Bank. So the original Globe Theatre was already, when it opened, a second-hand building. They took the timbers with them and put it back together over the course of a few months. And there were four major theatres. The Globe was the biggest, it held nearly 3,000. And you had the Hope and the Swan, and another famous one was the Rose. The Rose is mentioned quite a bit in Shakespeare in Love. The Puritans took over the country. The 1640s, the theatres were closed for about 18 years. And in the 1660s, Charles II was restored to the throne. The Merry Monarch, his restoration happened. And he set about rebuilding London and cheering up the public. And this area, Covent Garden, Piccadilly, Leicester Square, Soho, Trafalgar Square, Regent Street, all of this became the new go-to place, not the South Bank anymore. This became the new theatre land. Most of the buildings around us are from Victorian times. Agatha Christie, a statue to her there. That's nice. I have a few little bits and pieces in this area, Leicester Square. We have Longacre. We have Garrick Street, named after David Garrick. We're approaching St. Martin's Lane. So there's a slight angle, St. Martin's Lane. Lane was originally a muddy ditch which let the water go into the main River Thames. So any road or street or thoroughfare in London that is given the word lane, normally it was at a bit of an angle and normally it led to the river. So there's a good bit of trivia there. Two theatres, the Noel Coward and the Duke of York's. You can see some of the lights have already been turned off. St. Martin's Lane. And during this weekend, the weekend of the 6th and 7th of January, the lights will come down again. So it'll be a busy little weekend. They might not start taking them down till the Monday evening, but they will all be turned off this weekend. Actually, while we're at it, I'm going to give this a go. The signal is not so good, and it's probably quite dark down here, but Let's have a look. I want to go down Goodwin's Court. Very atmospheric little court. Every now and then you have people doing Harry Potter tours. This becomes one of their stop-off points. It gets a bit darker as we go through. I can see people in the distance. Are there probably... I can see someone leading them. It looks like it's a Harry Potter walk. This thoroughfare, this little court, this little lane here, was rumoured to be one of the inspirations for Diagon Alley in Harry Potter. They were apparently going to film down here, from what I read, but it was too narrow to get any of the equipment, or the equipment that they needed to get good lighting down here, so they decided to build it on a set instead. I think we kept the signal there. I think everyone is still with me. I can't 100% see any of the comments. I can see that there are comments, but I can't see any of them because I'm not wearing glasses and my screen is quite small. I mean, as it's quite busy, I'm trying to figure my way around. Check the battery status. And also watch, because it's quite slippery, quite wet. It's been light rain in the last few hours, but yesterday and the day before it was torrential. Well, I'm pleased to say in just over an hour and maybe close to an hour and 10 minutes, we've reached Covent Garden. I'm amazed the signal stayed with us. I am even more amazed the battery stayed strong. The lights in Covent Garden are different than any other place in London. They often don't go from building to building across the road. Buildings are lit on the side. So, as you can see above, you remember Carnaby Street earlier, and Regent Street, the lights go above us. It's slightly more refined in Covent Garden. The buildings are lit, not the sky above. So it's a slightly different idea. We'll go back to the beginning and talk about the idea of Christmas lights. Really, Thomas Edison, who, when he patented and made the light bulb popular, it was only about 3 years later that light bulbs became popular in Christmas trees. Because before that, and I can't believe this, they would have a Christmas tree and they would use live candles. Now, there's nothing more flammable than a 2-week-old Christmas tree. To have candles in it. So the electric lights, and in the beginning, they were horrifically expensive to buy Christmas lights. So it was only the really rich that could have them. It was around 1880 the first ever Christmas lights were seen in the US and in London. And we're in Covent Garden, and in Covent Garden, the best tree, better than the one in Trafalgar Square, more colourful, maybe not as historic as the Norwegian gift to us every year, but a beautiful, beautiful tree. So we could really say the inventor of Christmas lights was a man named Edward Johnson, who was one of the partners of Thomas Edison. It was around 1880 to 1882, the first electric Christmas lights, the first string of lights that you would put together in a tree. And Edward Johnson, he was the friend and partner of Edison, and he hand wired 80 red, white and blue bulbs, and he wound them around a Christmas tree. Not only was it illuminated, it also revolved. But it took many, many years for people to trust electricity and electric lights in their homes. In the 1890s, President Cleveland requested that the White House Christmas tree was illuminated, and that made it more popular. 1923, Calvin Coolidge lit the national Christmas tree with over 3,000 bulbs. Still expensive. Then in the 1900s, it became a bit cheaper when General Electric brought the prices down. Look at this. Covent Garden is beautiful. They say to light a Christmas tree in 1903, the average Christmas tree with electric lights would cost about $2,000 in today's money. In the 1950s, our Christmas light traditions worldwide have taken off. Some people prefer the white bulbs, some people like the red bulbs. The Covent Garden tree has the old style Thomas Edison and Edward Johnson red, white and blue. Jubilee Market in Covent Garden, white bulbs on a red background, which is probably the most Christmassy colour of all. And now we're coming near to the end. We've had a good long walk from the Strand, through Trafalgar Square, up Haymarket, through Piccadilly, along Regent Street, along Regent Street, past Hamleys, along Carnaby Street, into Soho, Shaftesbury Avenue, Chinatown, Leicester Square. And we made our way in about an hour and 15 minutes to Covent Garden and down Southampton Street to not far from where we started, on the Strand. I thank you for your time. I thank you for joining me on this final night of the Christmas celebrations, the 12th night. Do like the video, click on like, the thumbs up. Give a little comment if you liked it. Maybe share the lights and this tour on your social media. If you haven't subscribed, do subscribe. If you want to leave a contribution on Buy Me a Coffee or on PayPal, the links are in my bio. It hopefully should be at the top of the page as well, pinned. Do join me again. Thank you so much. It made me very happy to share this with you. And I will see you all very, very soon. There's the Coal Hole, Richard Harris's favourite pub. I might treat myself to a little Christmas drink in there. I'll leave you on the Strand, Sunset Boulevard in front of us, and good luck to you all. And I will see you soon.